let's talk about pricing and packaging. Who's excited this afternoon? Yes. Oh yeah, great. Yeah, we love pricing and packaging. I have to admit, I'm like slightly less passionate about pricing and packaging than I was about the content yesterday, but we're gonna give it our best shot. Hopefully you walk out feeling somewhat more informed, maybe a little bit excited to sell Staffbase, if that's your gig. So yeah, wanted to cover a couple of different areas today. First of all, I wanted to talk a little bit about our model. So I know that also for some partners in the room, the SaaS model and SaaS selling models are something new. So I want to cover that really briefly and then go into packaging and pricing. So how do we bundle different features? What are the ones that we offer? And what are the actual price points for those? So in the form of rate cards. And I'll talk a little bit about kind of our theory behind why we do some of those things. And then I'm going to talk about some behind the scenes tactics that we use to get a better price on a deal. Those are things that aren't necessarily exercised by partners, but maybe it's good to know that, so we have some things we do in the background to basically try and get everybody more money at the end of the day. And then, yeah, we'll have some time for questions. So let's do it. Okay, first things first, our model. Yeah, Staffbase is a SaaS subscription model. SaaS subscription models are, based on an annual subscription fee. The minimum is 1 year for us. Different SaaS subscription models might have a minimum 3 years or minimum 4 years. We make it 1 year so that customers are able to test the platform, build their trust, and then extend for a longer time. And we also have a one-time implementation fee, and then there's a couple things that you could do to add on another level of customer support, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Also, one good thing to know about SaaS models is that sometimes you'll charge, like the charging of those can be different. So sometimes you have it based on, for example, users that actually log in and use the platform, so active users. That's not what we do. We price it based on invited users, so the customer will specify at the beginning how many users they're anticipating inviting to the platform, and then they're charged per user per month with a yearly fee. We also base this off of included features, so the further the scope of the features that they have, the more expensive it will be. And we group those features into packages. And I'll talk a little bit about that now. So we have 3 different products that we sell effectively, and each of them have 3 different levels to them. So let me talk a little bit about packaging in general to start. If some of you have been with Clearbox or with Staffbase, I don't know why I said Clearbox. It's really weird. If you've been with Staffbase for a while now, you might have known that in the past we packaged our products pretty differently. So we had a couple of different products that we packaged, and then we had a lot of different, like, smaller add-ons that you could add to them pretty freely depending on the package. So the chat or different menu structure and things like that. And what that did is it left us with 127 different combinations of packages that customers could have at the end of the day. This is obviously, an organizational nightmare for us. And then the other thing is that it makes it really hard for customers to choose what they actually want and make a decision based on what they need. So, brought a little theory, because I love books and theories. I don't know if anybody has heard of the paradox of choice. It's a great TED Talk. It's a great book. Anybody? Watch the TED Talk. Oh, Felicia, of course. Somebody in my own team. So the paradox of choice is basically a theory that says in a world where there's an increasing number of options, usually you would assume that this is a good thing because you get more of what you want, you have more choices, you can tailor it to fit your needs. But what it actually turns into is that it's harder for somebody to choose actually what they want, so more and more options isn't necessarily the best thing. And it makes, for us, in terms of the sales process really long and difficult and tedious. And also we have a lot of confused customers at the end of the day because oftentimes they're not actually, you have to be really, really informed to be able to make a decision on those things. And they're often not in the position to make those decisions. And so the solution for us is that we pre-package features. And this seems really obvious, actually, because you see it with so many SaaS models, but I think to understand the thought behind it is also important. So, brought a quote here. I like this quote a lot too. Biggest risk is not actually that the customer will end up buying the lowest package, but actually that they delay the process because they don't really understand what's going on. So at Staffbase, there's also a great, if you watch the TED Talk, which I would definitely recommend that you do, they end with, or he ends with a great, clicking. A great graphic that talks about having a fishbowl for customers. So having them be able to choose in kind of a specific framework that makes sense for them and is best for them. So what we do is we create these 3 packages and we make it based on segments. So you think about what use cases would a customer in a certain segment actually need. We try and match the price to that segment and then turn it into packages from there. So let's have a look at those packages. Gotta always turn this way. All right. So like I said earlier, we have 3 different products and 3 different packages for them. And then we also have success, one-time kind of a higher level of customer support that customers can buy. And one other thing, if you look at pricing and packaging theory, like different psychologies behind it, is there's optimal numbers of packages that you can also offer for customers to sort of move them in the direction of choosing one package over the other. So usually we would see that most buyers wouldn't choose a starter package. They would choose the thing in the middle because this is where they feel like most people would end up. They feel like they're average in a lot of cases. So looking at each of those packages, let's start with email. We group them in kind of these feature clusters. What you'll see from a segmentation standpoint is that the things here on the right side, nope, it's the left side, on the left side are focused really on smaller communications teams that are, trying to get the job done. Maybe it's a smaller team and they need kind of the basics. In the middle, things start to get a little bit more complex. And at the end, we're talking really about an enterprise situation. I don't want to go through the laundry list of features with you all. I think that would be very boring. We have some resources for that you can look in real depth as to what the differences to those things are. And especially when it comes to packaging, we're pretty interested in your feedback too. So if you see that a customer, kind of falls into one certain category but has an outlier with a certain feature, that's pretty interesting feedback for us. Basically what we try and do is identify for those different features, what's the value behind it. So a lot of what Felicia was talking about earlier today, also the conversation we had with Marius, really identifying what are the things that would actually move a customer into that direction, and how can we split them out optimally. So a little bit of an overview there. App follows the exact same concept, nothing new there. And then, we have the intranet package as well, which also follows the same concept. Good to know about the intranet package is that it always comes with an app, or the price for it is based on the app. So we include the mobile solution. I guess you could frame it in 2 ways. Either in a negative way, you could frame it and say, you have to buy the app to be able to buy the intranet. But in a positive way, you could say, the app is free when you buy the intranet. So that's the positioning that I would encourage. So those are the packages. Maybe just looking specifically at how we would do a segmentation example. Here's one of the starter packages. So we talk about less control. So restrictions on the roles and rights and all of that stuff is more tailored to a team that has, more of a centralized structure, doesn't necessarily have a lot of people in the team. Also, fewer integrations and customizations. Maybe the existing information architecture is not as complex as it would be at an enterprise company. Limited analytics. A lot of this is around different parameters that they would need for filtering. So if they have a lot of different employee groups and segments and want to break it out on that basis, they might not need this if they're not a real global company or working with a lot of segments. And then planning features. So less needing to coordinate, for example, is something that would correlate to a smaller team. So we do that across all of our packages. That is the principle. Let's talk a little bit about combining products. When it comes to combining products, there's really only 2 things that are important to know, I would say. The first is that the starter packages aren't actually eligible to be multi-channel deals. So if a customer buys a starter package, this means this is somebody that's really focused on one specific channel and they don't necessarily need something else. A lot of this has to do with some technical factors around our studio and what we can support in terms of having platforms that are, or people that are using different channels on one platform at this time. But yeah, that's the principle there. And then when a customer does buy more than one product, they can't have varying levels of those products. So if they buy the business version of the employee app, then they also have to buy the business version of the intranet if they want to buy the intranet. So those are some good parameters to know as well. Talking about features, we recently, when we redid the pricing and packaging, we created some pretty detailed feature comparison lists, and we made them look nice too. So we're gonna make those available to everybody in the Partner Hub or however you'd like to have them, so that you can look in a good level of detail and kind of compare what's in what package. All right, that's packaging. Let's move on to one that is maybe a little bit more interesting for you all, which is the pricing aspect of things. Yeah, let's go. 5 important pricing things to know. First things first, the minimum number of invited users is 500. So we talked a lot about this over the past couple of days. Staffbase targeted towards kind of a more enterprise setting now. That also has to do with a minimum deal size that we have. And the thought behind that is basically just that for our business model, how much we put into the sales process, and then also how much effort we have to put into supporting a customer once they're on board for us. It has to be worth it for us. So that's the first 2 things to know. The second thing to know is we do something called interpolation, which is really just a fancy way of saying we have different blocks of employees, and that's how we use to measure the number of users. So they're increments of 500. When we look at the price lists, you'll see there's a floor price that's based on a certain, increment of 500 for employees, and then it moves up based on increments of 500. And I'll talk to you about that in a minute. One thing that's important to know is we're still theoretically can do really exact pricing, but size interpolation is something that we use to get a better price also from customers. Yeah, and then the last thing is that multi-channel discounts are available. We'll talk about that one also later. Okay, with our pricing, we work with curves. This basically means that as the number of users increases, the price for each license decreases, so that you're not getting into really shocking and exorbitant amounts for customers that then aren't able to pay those. And so I have brought these graphics that shows a little bit of some of the factors that we take into consideration when we think about setting the specific price. So before we actually did the pricing rework in 2021, we saw price curves that looked a little bit more like the one that says old app price list, and then this was the price that they were actually sold at. So what you can see there is that people were discounting really, really heavily, and then we knew, okay, we actually need to, fix that by probably reducing the price points that we sell so that we're not manipulating as much. So this is one thing that we also take into consideration, and also look for pretty active feedback from partners telling us, okay, you've seen that the price points that we provide are actually fitting for customers, also relative to competition, or you've seen that it's not a good market fit, and that's really, really, really important feedback for us. So please let us know if you see anything like that. All right. Let's take a look at the rate cards. So quick disclaimer on these ones. These are the price rate cards. You'll actually get them. So that's something pretty new for partners that we decided to do this time around. Really, really important is that you can't share them with anybody ever. They're really just a tool for you to be able to look and be able to indicate to a customer what maybe a ballpark range would be for the product that they're looking to buy. Why is it a ballpark range? Because at the end of the day, we negotiate, also the contract fee at the end of the day. You might, if you give them one specific price point based on this rate card, you might end up giving them a price where we actually could have gotten a higher price for it. So there's a lot that happens in negotiation. We use some tactics there to kind of fix or adjust the price, but if you're looking to give a ballpark range, this is how you would do it. So you have a floor price, that's pretty exact. So the price that you see here is the one that's for 5,000 employees. Oh, I have a laser. Let me try and use the laser. And then you would increase incrementally by 500, increments of 500, and then you multiply that number by this number, add it to that, and then you have your price if you're looking for some really specific price point. So I think the tables are actually pretty easy to use. We'll like to have your feedback on that as well, like everything. Yeah, Claudia.
So you say it can become a higher price at this table? So it would be good for the partners to have list price, maybe it's the highest one, and then the negotiations could be cheaper. This is something that's more practical for the partners.
Yeah, this is the list price. But I would always give a ballpark range. So let me talk about some of the tactics that we use a little bit later, and then yeah, you'll kind of understand, I think, what would be a good thing to do when you give a partner a first price. So you have these tables. You have one for each product. So exactly the same here. If you'd like to take a photo, feel free. We'll also put them in the partner portal, but yeah. Here's the one for the intranet. So obviously also increasing complexity. Yeah, price is getting a little bit higher on an intranet project. And then the last price points to share are customer support price points. So here we offer customer support plans. There's always a one-time onboarding fee for customers. I listed those here. The only place where the onboarding fee is actually different based on the different package that they have is for the email product, so that's notable. And then these are the two levels of additional support that we would offer for customers, and the price is based on like kind of a one number, and then you add the amount or like a percentual amount of their subscription fee. Basically, we would just assume that a customer that has a larger account with us is also requiring a higher level of support then. So that's why it's based on a percent. So that's that. And the other thing that I wanted to say about these rate cards specifically and the prices is that they're absolutely subject to change. So not recommendable would be to download them and save them somewhere in your own folders and always refer to those, but always be looking to make sure that you're using an up-to-date rate card. Why? Because we do change our prices. If you look at, brought a graph, some more research. If you look at, this is a study that was done by General Atlantic, it's one of our investors, where they looked at how often companies typically change prices. For B2B SaaS, as you can see, kind of the standard is once a year. So we look at things based on how the market has changed, what feedback do we get from our customers, is there inflation, and we make adjustments accordingly. And so, it's just important to know that, so that you're up to date. 65% of B2B SaaS companies actually will adjust their prices based on inflation this year. So it's not something that's uncommon either. And look out for that. Okay. Then I guess the last thing that I really wanted to share is some behind the scenes things before we open it up for questions. Our salespeople use a couple of different tactics to make sure that they're getting the most money out of a deal possible, and they'll help you do this as well. So 4 things. The first is multi-channel bundling. The second is the size interpolation thing. Third is a concept. Our salespeople actually coined the term puffing for it. We'll talk about that. And then the last one is regular discounting. So let's have a look. When it comes to multi-channel discounts, one thing that we did this year, because we know that it's pretty important for us as a software vendor to increase kind of our footprint at a company. We want customers to use a couple of different products from us. And so one thing that we did is we introduced a promotion for customers that are using more than one product. So if they close before the end of this year, our account executives are able to discount them that much percentages combined with other discounts. So at the end of the day, it'll lead to them using more of our products. The account size is then larger, even though we give them some slight discount there. So that's one thing that we do. The next is the size interpolation. So with these increments of 500, this is actually a pretty good way to get more money out of a deal. So if you would have a company of 2,700 employees, for example, you could just say, okay, I'm going to give them an exact price and price it there. We wouldn't recommend that though, because you could do it differently and frame it and say, okay, Up to 2,500 is 41K. 46K is the price for greater than 2,500, up to 3,000. And then you offer them the 46K, and they say, we don't charge you until you reach over 3,000. If the customer is really sensitive about that, you could also say, okay, I'll discount you the difference and give you the deal for the 43K, but as soon as you go higher on the number of licenses that you have, then we'll increase the price. So this has actually been I think we started doing this about a quarter ago. I think it's been pretty successful so far. I think customers don't really have an issue with that, as you stated, as kind of a matter of fact in the way that the product is priced. So there's that. Yeah, the last one is puffing. So I put together a very simplified scenario here of a fictitious conversation between us and a customer. So basically the principle of puffing is just to say, okay, the price for 10,000 employees is 100K. The list price is maybe actually 84K or something, but then you puff it up because you probably think, okay, this is a customer, I know exactly what their budget is. I know that I probably could get more money out of this deal. So you increase this a little bit, the customer says, no, it's too expensive for me. So then you say, okay, fine, just this once, I'll give you a discount. Maybe you give them 5 or 10% discount, it's 90K, the customer is happy, and you've closed a bigger deal at the end of the day, and everybody wins. So yeah, that's one other tactic that our salespeople will use sometimes. They don't do this exorbitantly, like they're not gonna double the price or something like that, but they just looked at and listen really closely to what kind of a budget they're looking at with the customer. Maybe if they even know what a counteroffer is from a competitor, then they can match that. So yeah, there's that. And then the last one is, this is more of an example of a multi-channel discount, but one thing that we'll also do is our salespeople are able to give discounts at the end of the day. We ask that you as partners don't offer customers a discount without having spoken to us beforehand. So we usually take that over, and the salespeople are also really well schooled in how to give a discount, how much is appropriate, when do you actually need to give a discount to close the deal, and when is it maybe just, too compassionate towards the customer. So yeah, one thing that we would do, this is an example of a multi-channel discount where we would say, okay, those are the prices for the products that you want to have. We just subtract 5%, and then it's basically like you've taken the price of email down half. You could phrase it in that way. So yeah, a lot that we can do there as well. And that is all, actually. It's actually pretty easy, pretty basic. So with that, I thought it was easy, but yeah, let's have your questions. Yeah, Andrea.
What's the one deal that we did have? The client hired or talked to an expert in software sales to look at the contract. What would they be looking at? How does that work? I've never heard of that before.
Okay, so they get like a consultant to review the contract and see. And was it specifically from a pricing standpoint or just?
I think it was everything, but I did include pricing.
Yeah. I don't know, I haven't seen that before. Anybody else? Dan? Juha? You know anything about this?
I haven't. I've seen a consultant reviewing our pricing.
Yeah.
You mean like the default pricing or the customer's pricing?
The customer's pricing and the contract and see
what?
if it was like, that's what I was wondering. What are they looking for?
Yeah.
What they're comparing it to other stuff. Contracts and pricing. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I don't know. But it would be a question, like what are you looking for, and how can we help? If it's contractual terms, we want. If they were looking for a mistake, I don't know. If you have the right discount, if it's a year, it depends. But if you get to that point and there are questions, just getting to come in and respond and answer.
Yeah.
We do give discounts on multi-year deals, for instance. As Mark said, if he's just going to avoid just giving discounts straight away, but come to us and we'll work on the pricing with you so you've got the right amounts. We don't want you also to be out of sync with maybe pricing of companies that we kind of know this company might be comparing itself to sometimes, although people are not supposed to pay kind of legal pricing they got, and you want them to get sort of something in a similar industry. So so we can give you that insight.
Yeah, well, I mean, your salesperson dealt with it,
Yeah.
but I was just curious.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. We'd be curious. It sounds like a great business model. Maybe I'll do that in my next life. Review SaaS contracts. Nice. Okay. Other questions? Yeah.
If you do plan on changing your pricing, how long will you honor previous quotes?
Yeah, we'll communicate around that. So whenever we do a pricing change, obviously it's a little bit of a balance to decide what's the cutoff point. Usually this actually ends up being a good thing because you can tell a customer, okay, up until this point we'll honor the quote and it'll push them to close the deal also faster. But it always depends on the situation and how big is the pricing change? Have we changed something in terms of packaging? That's obviously also a lot more complex. But yeah. So TBD, I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
With the pricing all pretty straightforward, that was good. How does that impact? So the things like puffing are a lot of interest because well, Value say they want professional services and added value. So if we knew the budget was 100K, now you add 10K in professional services. So if you're going to, if the sales are going to puff and not sell the partner can actually live in.
I don't think I understood the question completely. I might need to bring you a mic because you're very far away.
Probably it's not.
The idea is Nara, that the puffing of the AE could actually take away budget from the customer for services they would be putting with them.
Ah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. No, but I think that's the purpose of the whole conversation that you would have with an AE. Like an AE would never puff the price without having let you know. And it's a conversation between you because ultimately you also know the budget of your customer, in some cases better than the AE does. So they wouldn't do that without like talking to you about it. Others? Well, this was straightforward. I guess nothing super groundbreaking. Cool. Then in that case, thanks for joining. You can look for those resources that I showed then also in the Partner Hub, or if you don't have access to the Partner Hub, we can send them to you via email, or otherwise there'll be a new Partner Hub for everybody in the future. And if you have any questions or feedback specifically around pricing, yes, super important. Please, if you have feedback, send me an email, like immediately, laura@staffbase.com, because I really want to know. I had a situation where a partner gave us some feedback that really helped us adjust our pricing for something regionally specific. And so, yeah, helps us, helps you, and we're all in a good place.